Imagine a billionaire turning $2,000 into $5 billion, tax-free. When Congresswoman Olivia Harper exposed Nathan Caldwell's shocking scam in a Capitol showdown, his own words betrayed him. Make the law our toy. This viral reckoning will leave you speechless. Watch now to see justice strike back. When Representative Olivia Harper charged billionaire Nathan Caldwell with transforming a $2,000 Roth IRA into a $5 billion untaxed fortune, the Capitol hearing erupted into an unexpected clash. As cameras captured the moment, Caldwell retorted, labeling it a sham trial, until Harper unveiled a damning memo bearing his own phrase. Make the law our toy. Audible gasps filled the room, followed by stunned silence, then demands for a criminal probe in a system rigged to shield the elite. What unfolds when someone dares to challenge the powerful? Keep watching. This tale demands your full attention. At 8 a.m. sharp, room 312B in the Capitol buzzed to life. Cameras flickered on nationwide. Millions tuned in. This wasn't a routine hearing. It was a battleground of opposing ideologies. Olivia Harper entered first. Once a public defender, now a bold progressive, she spoke for the overlooked. She brought no theatrics, only a briefcase, poise, and the burden of taxpayers outpaying billionaires. Her gaze was steady, yet her aura sparked like a lit fuse. Then Nathan Caldwell, tech mogul and libertarian figurehead, strode in, escorted by 3 gray-suited lawyers. No nods, no acknowledgement of the room. He took his seat as if the proceedings were trivial, perhaps beneath him. The contrast was stark. One woman emerged from courtrooms and flawed systems. One man crafted systems to evade justice. One risked everything. The other had never faced defeat, until now. Harper leaned toward the microphone, her voice razor-sharp. This isn't about vilifying wealth. It's about the powerful rewriting rules without resistance. With that, the hearing ignited. So did the confrontation. As the final camera focused and the room anticipated formalities, Olivia Harper leaned in, not to open proceedings, but to spark a fire. She didn't pause for effect. She didn't demand quiet. She opened a folder, laid a single document on the desk, and looked up. "Mr. Caldwell," she said, calm and resolute, "do you know that your $2,000 Roth IRA deposit, intended for middle-class retirees, ballooned into a $5 billion tax-free empire?" Her words cut through the tension like a blade. Caldwell didn't flinch. An attorney jotted notes, but silence held the room. The audience leaned forward, breaths held. Harper stretched the pause, wielding it like a weapon. "The American people," she added, "pay their taxes while you've built a fortune behind a tax-exempt barrier." The atmosphere barely settled before it was pierced again. This time, not by a query, but by brazen confidence. Nathan Caldwell didn't squirm. He eased back, adjusted his cuffs with the nonchalance of the untouchable, and stared ahead. No guilt, no pause, just calculation. "I didn't violate any laws," he said smoothly. "I outsmarted those who drafted them." His tone was flat, almost disinterested, as if the hearing itself amused him. He let his words linger, as if they were a badge of honor. Then, unprompted, he added, "I outwitted the system. That's what achievement looks like." No immediate uproar followed, only a taut, palpable strain sweeping the chamber. It began with a veteran congressman's tightened jaw. It spread to the grim faces of staffers, scribbling rapidly. On the Republican side, one lawmaker smirked. He murmured to his neighbor. Some nodded. It wasn't shock. It was alignment. They viewed Caldwell as a strategist supreme. Harper saw something different. A man who thought mastering rules meant owning the game. She didn't shout. She didn't waver. She gazed at him for a prolonged moment, letting his words settle like ash. Then she spoke. Outsmarted those who drafted them, she echoed, as if examining a spoiled fruit. Are you referring to laws safeguarding retirement funds for nurses and factory workers? Or those failing to stop billionaires from concealing wealth the public never sees? Her voice grew pointed, not loud, but precise like a scalpel through metal. You label it brilliance, she said, but I call it decay. She leaned closer. Decay of trust, decay of equity, decay of the notion that government serves those without high-priced legal teams. She lifted a modest data sheet, unembellished, pure facts. This is IRS data, she said. It reveals audits target families earning under $50,000, 5 times more than someone like you. She set it down gently, almost with care. So, while single mothers in Georgia face audits over tax credits, you escape with $5 billion. No taxes, no scrutiny, no repercussions. Caldwell shifted slightly, a subtle tell. A glance, a stiffened jaw. It was minor, but Harper noticed, and the cameras did too. What stings most, she pressed, her tone weightier, is that people like you don't just use loopholes. You revel in them. You sit here, declaring it's not just legal, it's ingenious. She paused, then struck cleanly. So, Mr. Caldwell, is your ingenuity what America craves more of, or what it needs safeguarding from? She let the silence linger. You claim to outwit the system, she concluded, but you really outran the people it was meant to shield. Rather than yielding, Caldwell sat straighter, chin up, as if the room, cameras, and nation owed him the floor, not judgment. He didn't respond like someone questioned. He spoke as if above it. Let's be clear, he began, voice steady, rehearsed. My actions weren't illegal. They were permissible. In a free nation, opportunity drives all. He wasn't addressing Harper now, but the gallery, the media, every tycoon nodding from a private plane. You're frustrated, he said, because I spotted a gap and used it. But don't confuse that with ill intent. That's not fraud. That's skill. The room's mood shifted. Divisions deepened, not just by party, but by faith in the system itself. Some leaned in, others drew back, but Caldwell pressed on, his rhythm quickening. The government you champion, he said, meeting Harper's gaze, has let down more people than I ever could. It overtaxes, underdelivers, and stifles progress. He raised a hand slightly, universalizing his point. You speak of fairness, but fairness is a fiction peddled by officials. This nation was founded on liberty, liberty to create, to risk, to triumph. He paused briefly for effect, then delivered a polished barb. If you seek to equalize results, fine. Just admit what that is. Envy cloaked as justice. Gasps punctuated the air. A Republican lawmaker nodded once, but most stayed quiet. Not in agreement, but in uncertainty. Because Caldwell's move was bolder than denial. He'd framed exploitation as principle. He'd draped his deeds in a doctrine that cast moral lapses as virtues and personal profit as national pride. Harper hadn't yet responded, but her calm carried weight, for she'd encountered this rhetoric before. Not only in corporate suites and editorials, but in courtrooms, evictions, underfunded schools, uninsured families. This wasn't abstract to her. It was lived, felt, endured. And she knew what cameras missed. Nathan Caldwell wasn't just defending himself. He was rallying, preaching to every driven youth craving success without accountability, to every donor eager to hear that winning equals morality. His message was sleek, even compelling. I owe nothing. I found an opening. I took it. If you didn't, that's on you. It wasn't merely a reply, it was a battle cry. The chamber still reeled from Caldwell's speech, a slick, calculated ode to individualism, as if it were an untouchable ideal, not a shield. Cameras stayed on him, expecting Harper to lash out or falter, but she didn't. She remained still, longer than comfort allowed. When she moved, it wasn't loud. It was surgical. She leaned forward, not to match his tone, but to reclaim clarity. "You call it liberty," she said, voice low, each word intentional. "I call it avoidance." No murmurs in the gallery now. No side talk. The room hushed into a charged silence reserved for moments beyond politics. "You've wrapped your tactics in freedom's rhetoric, Mr. Caldwell, but your empire isn't a beacon of American success. It's a shrine to evasion." Caldwell didn't blink. That was his strength. Stoic, unreadable, unshaken. But Harper had shifted focus. This wasn't about him alone anymore. She reached for a slim folder on the table and opened it plainly. Inside were tax returns, not his, but from her constituents. Names, figures, dreams, measured in grocery lists and unpaid dental bills. "I speak for people," she said, tapping the folder lightly, "earning $35,000 a year, yet paying more in federal taxes than you have in decades. People working double shifts, unable to repair a car radiator. People clipping coupons not for savings, but to afford meat once a week." She paused, not for drama, but because truth needs room. "A woman in my district, Vanessa Brooks, is a single mother of 2. She's a full-time home health aide. No sick days, no vacation. Last year, she paid $4,112 in federal taxes. She did so without complaint. Why? Because she believes in this nation, believes her taxes make her part of it." Harper looked directly at Caldwell. "Yet here you are," she said, "a man who's amassed $5 billion in a tax haven meant for retirees. And you call it brilliance. You call it liberty." She shook her head, her voice firming. "Let me be plain. This isn't envy. It's the framework of justice buckling under selective compliance. It's a country where Vanessa pays and sacrifices, while men like you profit and vanish." Caldwell shifted faintly in his seat, but Harper didn't relent. "You claim the government harms more than helps. Let me ask," she continued, locking eyes. "When you drive on public roads, who paid for the pavement? When your companies thrive on broadband, clean water, skilled engineers, who funded those?" A faint stir arose in the back. One of Caldwell's lawyers fidgeted. "You tout self-reliance," Harper said, "but you've never stood on soil you built. You leverage this nation's laws, protections, markets, then dodged the bill when it came due." Her words carried not just accusation, but defense of something timeless, felt before it's named, the honor of fairness. "This isn't about tax laws now," she said, voice firm yet fiery. "It's about the America we're shaping. One where rules apply, or one where they're optional for the wealthy and binding for the poor." She held up an IRS audit notice from her district, not Caldwell's. "This went to a family of 5 in East Atlanta, audited for underreporting $892. It took 6 months to clear. Their tax refund was frozen. They nearly lost their home." She set the paper down. "They don't have $5 billion. They have nothing." Caldwell's face remained blank. He didn't respond, didn't blink. But the room's mood shifted. His silence's confidence cracked. Not broken, but shaken. Harper eased back slightly, exhaled. Not relief, but determination. "You didn't just dodge taxes," she said softly. "You shirked citizenship's duty. You profited from this nation and gave nothing back. That's not genius. That's betrayal in legal guise." A long pause enveloped the room. Even the air conditioning seemed quieter. "You didn't outsmart the system," she said at last. "You undermined it. And those who relied on it paid the cost." With that, she shut the folder, not dramatically, but decisively. The point was clear. This wasn't a hearing. It was a reckoning. In Olivia Harper's America, the debt was due. For 20 minutes, the chamber had simmered in outrage, steeped in ideology. But Olivia Harper held something weightier than rhetoric. She had evidence. Knowing cold facts would hit harder than moral drama. When she reached beneath her binder for a slim red folder, unmarked save for a black ink dash, the room sensed a breaking point. She didn't brandish it. She placed it calmly on the oak desk, like a surgeon setting down a scalpel. "We've discussed legality," she said, voice steady, almost too steady. "You've claimed, Mr. Caldwell, your actions were lawful, that you seized what others missed, that your success proves your foresight." She opened the folder. Her hands didn't shake. The overhead light seemed harsher. "But this," she said, lifting the top document, "isn't interpretation. It's direction. It's purpose." She held the page toward the committee, eyes fixed on Caldwell. "This is a 2003 memo from your legal team, dated April 12th. Subject: Roth Optimization Strategy, Long-Term Forecast." The title alone sparked murmurs in the gallery. A reporter's pen fell. Another typed frantically, eyes off-screen. "This memo," Harper said, raising it slightly, "details a plan to channel pre-IPO shares into Roth IRAs under the radar, then skyrocket their value post-listing, evading IRS attention." She paused, letting it sink in. Then, quieter, she added, "In short, a scheme to amass dynastic wealth under a law meant for ordinary retirees." She turned the page. The next document was bolder, less formal. "This is blunter," she said. "A 2004 email chain between you and your counsel. And this line, it's yours, Mr. Caldwell." She met his gaze and read aloud. "The U.S. government should serve me, not the reverse." Silence crashed down, heavy, undeniable. No coughs, no footsteps. It was the silence truth commands when no spin can counter it. Behind Harper, a staffer shifted silently. Reporters whispered into mics. Phones glowed in the back rows. The committee chair frowned. A Republican beside him tensed, but stayed quiet. This wasn't politics now. It was raw exposure. Across the table, Nathan Caldwell's expression shifted. Not fear, not yet. But his poise frayed. His jaw twitched. A vein pulsed at his temple. A lawyer whispered urgently. Caldwell's eyes narrowed. No, not. Another attorney stood, addressing the chair. "We request a recess," he said, firm yet wary. "Our client needs to confer privately on these documents." Before the chairman could reply, Harper cut in. She didn't shout. She didn't glance at the lawyer. She stared at Caldwell. "Request denied," she said clearly. "This isn't your courtroom or boardroom. This is the people's chamber, and truth doesn't pause." Caldwell blinked once, deliberately. Harper returned to the folder. "These aren't misquoted phrases," she said, each word precise. "These are orders. These are motives. This is how a billionaire, enriched by public systems, now scorns them, deciding the nation that fueled his wealth deserves no return." She placed the document down. "This isn't brilliance. It's a deliberate retreat from civic responsibility, cloaked in legal finesse." The air grew dense. The tension tightened breaths. This wasn't about one man. It was about decades of complicit silence. "You call yourself a visionary," she said, softer now, not gentler. "But what vision fortifies itself on laws for retirees, then brands the nation it drains as ungrateful?" A pause. "I represent people paying taxes while choosing which medicine to skip. People rising before dawn to clean hospitals, teach classes, build roads. They aren't loopholes. They aren't blind. They're watching." Caldwell didn't answer. He couldn't. Not yet. He knew any words now would echo beyond his scripted lines. Harper leaned back slightly, hands on the desk. The room's pressure didn't ease. It grew. "This isn't a hearing now," she said quietly. "It's a reckoning. And those you dismissed as freedom's flip side aren't just hearing. They're remembering." The red folder lay open, its final page untouched. But she didn't need it. The message had landed, and Nathan Caldwell, who once thought government should bow to wealth, now faced that institution, trapped not by rhetoric, but by proof, looking diminished for the first time. The silence after Harper's last words could cut steel, but she didn't shatter it with volume. She broke it with memory. "My grandmother once believed the IRS erred," she began, voice softer, rooted in something deeper than anger. A thick envelope arrived, government seal in the corner. She thought it concerned her refund. It didn't. It was an audit. The chamber, pulsing with tension, seemed to hold its breath. "She underreported $200, Harper said. Just $200. She didn't scam anyone. She didn't plot. She misread a form at the library, unable to afford tax software or a professional." Her voice held steady, but carried pain heavier than grief. It carried the weight of a common story, a national one. They withheld her refund, demanded receipts from 2 years back, receipts she didn't keep, unaware she needed them. Harper paused, letting the weight settle. She was 72, on a fixed income, choosing between insulin and groceries. Now the government treated her like a criminal. Olivia looked up. Her eyes held conviction, not tears. "That's the America I knew growing up," she said. "The America many still endure, where a small error triggers investigation, where poverty means a second letter, a third, and the law's weight crushes those least able to resist." She paused, then reached for another document. It wasn't Caldwell's. "This is a Treasury Inspector General report," she said. "It shows 80% of IRS audits over 5 years targeted households earning under $50,000. She held it up. 80%. 4 in 5 audits hit teachers, custodians, daycare workers, people like my grandmother. Harper leaned forward, hands firm on the desk. Yet the ultra-rich, with lawyers, shell companies, offshore accounts, less than 2% of their filings were reviewed. Not because they're clean, but because the system can't afford to challenge them. Even Republican aides shifted uneasily. A congressman's hand twitched near his pen, then stilled. The truth wasn't partisan. It was undeniable, numeric. "And now I face you," she said, turning to Caldwell. "A man who funneled startup shares into a retiree's tax shelter, creating a $5 billion untaxed empire, untouched by audits or questions." She narrowed her eyes. "Tell me plainly, why is a grandmother earning $20,000 a bigger threat to the government than a billionaire with global assets?" The question sought no reply. It demanded recognition. Yet Caldwell stayed silent. "This isn't about loopholes now," she continued. "It's about who the system sees and who it ignores." She pointed to the data. "We've built a system that chases pennies from retirees, but ignores billions hidden in clever documents. A legal framework where fighting the powerful costs more than the taxes they dodge. Is that justice, or a show for the elite?" Her voice softened, not in force, but in closeness. "My grandmother paid that $200 with borrowed funds, believing it was her duty, believing non-payment made her the issue. She didn't know, in another city, a man shuffled millions through legal gaps and was applauded." Harper paused, eyes on Caldwell. "You speak of liberty," she said quietly. "But when you rewrite the rules you claim to follow, is that liberty or immunity?" The chamber froze, not in defiance, but in reflection. Everyone knew someone like her grandmother. Many were raised by her. Some had become her. And one man, with $5 billion and a quiet conscience, now embodied the imbalance. The air grew taut after Harper's grandmother's story. The chamber seemed to hold a breath too long, unsure how to release it. Then Nathan Caldwell stirred. Not a twitch, but a deliberate move. He straightened, adjusted his tie, and leaned to the microphone, choosing attack over retreat. He spoke slowly, each word measured. "Congresswoman," he began, voice calm but laced with scorn. "This hearing has veered far from facts. I came to address legal questions, not to witness a spectacle." He let spectacle linger, sharp with disdain. "This isn't scrutiny," he continued. "It's ideological drama. You're not pursuing justice. You're wielding race, class, and bitterness as tools. Your questions frame wealth as guilt, success as suspicion." He angled toward the committee, but aimed at her. "You've woven personal hardship, generational struggle, into an emotional plea, not a logical one. Frankly, you're exploiting poverty." The shift was overt. He wasn't defending now, he was accusing. Caldwell pressed on. "You act as if inequality proves misconduct, as if creating value means I've sinned to gain it. That's not oversight, Congresswoman. That's envy, and it's perilous." He paused. Some allied lawmakers exchanged glances. He saw it, doubling down. "This nation, my nation, thrives on entrepreneurial freedom. Punish excellence, and what happens? Look at Venezuela, Cuba, the USSR. Socialist systems crush success to fake fairness. This room feels like that, where winning big makes you a villain by default." There it was. The turn, framing accountability as persecution. Harper as a black congresswoman targeting him not for actions, but for what he symbolized. The gallery hushed, no longer impartial. The room split. Some squinted, others recoiled, but all eyes were on Olivia Harper. She didn't blink, she didn't stir. She sat utterly still, not passive, but commanding. Her silence was deliberate, a statement itself. The kind that forces you to anticipate her words, the kind that unnerves men like Caldwell, unswayable by bait, haste, or spin. The clock ticked. A pen tapped in the gallery. Someone exhaled. A staffer leaned forward, unsure if she'd erupt or withdraw. Then, with calm precision and enough weight to recenter the room, she spoke. Her voice was soft, deceptively so, demanding every ear. "In this country," she said, "the poor die over medical bills." 11 words, striking harder than any document, statistic, or charge. They shredded the veil. She didn't name him. She didn't need to. She didn't clarify. She didn't need to. Everyone understood. For all Caldwell's talk of envy, socialism, or punishing success, a grimmer truth loomed, one he'd never faced. A world where families bankrupt over insulin, where a sprained ankle triggers eviction, where life costs money, and without it, you lose. Caldwell shifted, too late. The blow landed, not on him, but on his crafted illusion. His armor, ideology, market purity, clean loopholes, cracked under one sentence's weight. And Olivia said no more. She didn't need to. The room, the nation, the broadcasts answered for her, not with cheers, but with realization. Some truths don't roar, they resound. But Harper wasn't done. She had one final voice to call, not with theory, but with proof. Olivia Harper leaned to the microphone, her poise no longer requesting attention. It owned it. "Madam Chair," she said, steady yet expectant, "I'd like to call a final witness." A faint buzz stirred, then grew like static. Papers shuffled. Seats creaked. A journalist whispered to a producer, "Please welcome Mr. Daniel Reed." The chamber's rear door opened. A man in his mid-50s entered, wearing a plain gray blazer and dark slacks, carrying a worn leather satchel. more fitting than any sleek briefcase. He didn't seem a rebel. He looked like someone who'd trusted rules and learned their selective flexibility. As he approached the witness seat, Caldwell's eyes narrowed. Recognition flickered, subtle but clear. His jaw tightened. A lawyer whispered. No nod, just silence. Reed was sworn in swiftly. His hand shook slightly. Not fear, but precision. His gaze swept the panel, then rested on Harper. Mr. Reed, she began, what was your prior role? I was a senior accounting analyst at Horizon Innovations, he said, voice steady but rough. I managed internal valuations, pre-IPO models, and executive asset memos. And during that time, she asked, were you ever instructed to undervalue assets on paper before placing them in Roth IRAs? Yes, he replied instantly. Dozens of times. The room quaked silently. Heads turned. Phones lit up. The ripple felt like a storm's approach. Harper nodded, then pointed to the satchel. Mr. Reed, do you have the subpoenaed materials? He reached in, pulling out a thick folder with a red legal tab. The paper's slide against leather echoed oddly loud. He handed it to a staffer, who set it on Harper's desk. She didn't open it yet. What's inside? She asked. 10 internal memos from Horizon's accounting division, he said, outlining strategies to undervalue assets for Roth IRA deposits. The language is coded but clear. Plus, spreadsheets showing low values pre-deposit, then inflated projections for private equity weeks later. He paused. They deliberately boosted values post-contribution, with full internal consent. Harper opened the folder. The top page, a bold memo, unredacted. She read aloud. Keep valuations below cap. Close transfer window pre-reappraisal. Avoid SEC flags. Optimize for stealth. She looked up. What's stealth, Mr. Reed? Regulatory gaps, he said. Where oversight is weak or enforcement lax. Who wrote this memo? Reed didn't waver. Nathan Caldwell's personal counsel. The room gasped, but Harper wasn't done. She flipped pages. This, she said, holding a cursive letter, is a note from Mr. Caldwell to Horizon's CEO. Correct? Reed nodded. I scanned it myself. Harper read the opening. We don't need to dodge taxes. We need to make the law our toy. No one stirred. No one breathed. It wasn't abstract now. It was handwritten. In ink. Caldwell's face paled, his composure gone. His lips parted, but no words came. A lawyer stood forcefully. We demand a recess, he snapped. This is an ambush. The chair turned to Harper. More to present? Yes, she said calmly, but what's shown demands a reply. A rare murmur crossed party lines. Eyes met, heads nodded, phones hummed with offices bracing for fallout. This wasn't a hearing anymore. It was real-time judgment. The chairman cleared his throat. Given the evidence and witness testimony, this committee recommends a criminal investigation referral. Caldwell's head stayed still, but his body sagged, as if gravity intensified beneath him. His knuckles whitened on the table's edge. A lawyer's hand rested on his shoulder. Not defense, but resignation. Harper stayed as she'd been, centered, composed, unyielding. She didn't gloat, didn't speak. Her silence outshone any celebration. This wasn't triumph, it was consequence. She gathered the documents, aligning edges, and slid the red-tabbed folder into her file. Daniel Reed sat still, eyes down, hands clasped, not victorious, just heard. And Nathan Caldwell, once a silent powers architect, sat in utter quiet, not by choice, but because control had slipped away. The hearing ended, but beyond those walls, the true explosion began. The nation watched. In 47 minutes, the first clip went viral. Grainy footage of Olivia Harper reading Caldwell's note. We don't need to dodge taxes. We need to make the law our toy. Spread like wildfire online. By the time Harper left the chamber for the marble hallway, Her name trended in 6 nations. The leaks, Roth scandal, Congresswoman Harper, who shapes the laws, CNN, MSNBC, BBC, Al Jazeera cut programming for headlines. No animations needed. The video spoke. A billionaire exposed by intent. A black Georgian woman dismantling him with law, facts, and tempered fury. Outside the Capitol, protesters amassed. Signs read, "Tax the truth." Others waved Caldwell's quote, "The law should serve me." It wasn't just arrogance, it was admission. The public, tired of loopholes and lobbyists, found their spark. Inside, Republicans stayed mute. Microphones pursued them. Staffers deflected. No comment yet. We're reviewing. Facts are unclear. But silence in D.C. meant this was beyond spin. Nathan Caldwell avoided reporters. No statement, no denial. He lingered at the hearing room's edge, staring at Harper's document-strewn desk. Then he walked out, shoes echoing on marble, never looking back. His lawyers shadowed him, wordless. It was the quietest exit of a man once dubbed Silicon Valley's sharpest mind. By 5 p.m., anchors likened the hearing to Watergate. By 7 a.m., Wall Street tallied losses. Tech stocks tied to Caldwell fell sharply. A Senate ethics session was called. The IRS launched a review of Roth IRA abuses among the wealthy. By 10 p.m., the Justice Department confirmed a preliminary probe into the hearing's evidence. Yet Olivia Harper stayed calm. No press conference, no news sets, no victory post. She sat in her Southeast D.C. apartment, watching the uproar like an outsider. Her phone buzzed endlessly. Producers, networks, Rachel Maddow at 9 o'clock, Tapper at 7 o'clock, BBC for a global slot. Her inbox overflowed with op-eds, endorsements, book deals. One publisher sent a mock cover. "The woman who toppled a tycoon." She didn't reply. For Olivia Harper, this wasn't victory. Next morning, her aide found her reviewing education bills. The hearing led news cycles, but she didn't watch. "They say you crashed the internet," the aide said, awed. Olivia looked up, weary but focused. "The internet's fine," she said. "It's the nation that's broken." She gave one interview to a local NPR segment, Voices of Power. No cameras, just her voice. Asked about being a sensation, she paused, then said a line replayed thousands of times. "This isn't a win, it's a mirror. The question isn't catching someone, it's whether we'll change or just cheer their fall. No fanfare, no heroism, just a mirror held to a nation." By day 2, lawmakers cited her hearing in speeches. State legislators proposed Harper amendments to close Roth gaps. Colleges invited her to discuss systemic justice. Activists painted her words on walls in Chicago and Phoenix. A tweet read, "Olivia Harper didn't just crush Nathan Caldwell. She bared the system he exploited." She didn't retweet. For her, this wasn't an end. It was a harder start. In a Friday closed-door meeting with progressives, she said, "If this fades like past moments, we've failed." She tapped the red-tabbed folder. "This shook the world out there," she said. "Let's make it shake here." Someone whispered, "Yes, ma'am," and meant it. The hearing didn't stay contained. It erupted across institutions expecting silence. Within 72 hours of Harper's Capitol exit, the tremors became a quake. The Justice Department opened a criminal probe into Caldwell's Roth dealings. Not a review, but a full investigation. The House Ways and Means Committee, with Senate Finance, formed a task force on retirement shelter abuses. They subpoenaed records from 3 firms linked to Horizon Innovations. Whispers flagged a dozen other billionaires' similar schemes. Then, a shock. The Defense Department canceled 3 Horizon contracts, citing ethical breaches. Their stock plummeted 17%. Investors panicked. Executives scrambled. The public didn't flinch. The release stated, "We don't partner with those who exploit the government." Conflict of interest finally cost something. Within weeks, the Senate Finance Subcommittee introduced the Tax Fairness Act, capping Roth IRAs at $10 million, mandating transparency for contributions over $5 million, and allowing retroactive IRS reviews of private equity deposits. The House followed suit. The public didn't just watch, they pushed. Letters swamped Congress. Teachers, veterans, nurses, parents quoted Reed's testimony. A Cleveland retiree wrote, "I taxed every dollar. Now I see someone made law a luxury I couldn't buy. Fix it." Financial media called it market flux, but it was deeper, moral. It wasn't one man's wealth. It was who the system shielded and forgot. News debates raged. Economists clashed with Treasury veterans. Leaked memos showed ignored loopholes. A Pew poll, 10 days post-hearing, asked, "Can the wealthy buy their way out of law?" 72% said yes. 14% said they had. The data struck D.C. like concrete. Not new, but admitted. It spread through briefcases, memos. Legislation gained traction, fueled by public and political pressure. Constituents demanded reform, not favors. Yet Olivia Harper stayed steady. Her name topped headlines. Her face graced covers. She didn't boast. She didn't take credit. She told all. She hadn't exposed a billionaire, but a pattern. Off camera, a reporter asked, "Did you win?" She didn't blink. "Winning's impossible when fairness wasn't the start," she said. "This wasn't victory. It was a scan. Now we decide what to do with it." The words went viral, but more. They endured. Think tanks drafted reforms. Students held forums. Can democracy outlast tycoon immunity? Pastors preached civic duty. Business schools joined the debate. The nation wasn't just processing scandal. It was auditing its morals. Not all embraced change. Private equity lobbyists warned of overregulation. Billionaire-funded think tanks claimed transparency would kill innovation. But their voices, once commanding, faded to noise. Something had shifted. Profound. Real. Olivia's words weren't just repeated. They were embraced. In town halls, kitchens, Congress, one question echoed. Do we write laws for all, or just those who rewrite them? The answer wasn't dismissed. It was being written into law. This wasn't the end. Far from it. But it was when power faced a mirror it couldn't ignore. When cameras faded, headlines dimmed, and the nation stirred, Olivia Harper stood where it began, alone in the chamber. It emptied slowly, like a leaking pipe. Aides, reporters, staffers spilled into the hall, buzzing with quotes and questions unanswered today. But Olivia stayed. She stood beneath a ceiling, holding countless lies, a few truths. Now it carried something heavier. Consequence. Lights dimmed. The air cooled. Adrenaline gone. But her chest held weight. Not triumph, not relief, but gravity. She walked to Caldwell's witness table, arrogant, polished, once untouchable. His nameplate remained, Nathan Caldwell. Simple, official. She stared, then whispered. One name. She nudged the chair, feeling its heft. How many names never sat here, she murmured. How many with portfolios, deals, loopholes left no trace because no one demanded their hands? The answer hung like dust. Countless. No cameras, just her, and a question that wouldn't fade. Soft footsteps approached. She turned. A young man, 21, stood at the door in a faded hoodie, glasses oversized, eyes wide with awe. "Sorry to interrupt," he said softly. "I couldn't leave without speaking." She nodded slightly. "Say it." He inhaled. "I came thinking this didn't matter. That truth died when money won. But when you said, 'The poor die over medical bills,'" he faltered, voice catching. "Someone finally voiced what we scream alone. You made me believe truth still matters." It hit harder than cheers. Olivia paused, letting it sink in. "It must," she said. He nodded. She nodded. He left, and she faced the House Oversight Committee seal, a silent vow. When the last intern cleared cups and reporters unplugged, Olivia was alone, but not isolated. It felt like a mission. She gathered notes, tucked the red-tabbed folder under her arm and walked out, not to applause, but to resolve. In her office, the sky was dark steel. Streets glowed with brake lights, lamps, a city sleepless, dreamless. She sat at her desk, no overhead lights. Her laptop's blue glow lit the room, half bright, half lonely. She opened a document, titled it, Federal Ethics and Transparency Act, Draft 1. Without fanfare, she wrote. Not with anger, not hope, but precision. Each paragraph a brick, each line a base, each clause a challenge to those thinking their codebook safe. She wrote of Roth IRA disclosures, mandatory audits for accounts over $10 million, board accountability for shady tax strategies, a bill not for headlines, but endurance. She paused, glancing out. The Capitol dome glowed faintly, a lighthouse in fog. They called it sacred. She knew better. Sacredness comes from purpose brought within. She typed another paragraph, another. She whispered, I don't want fame for exposing one man. I want to be known for calling out what we allowed too long for all. The cursor blinked. The laptop hummed. A silent system felt its first crack of sound. Long after lights faded and headlines waned, one question rang clearer than applause, sharper than scandal. What do we gain when the law faces power unflinchingly? The story of Olivia Harper and Nathan Caldwell isn't just courtroom theater or a fleeting headline. It's a mirror, honed by pain, edged by injustice, aimed at a society too used to justice as a luxury. For years, Americans muttered what they feared to shout. Wealth silences, systems bend, power isn't just guarded, it's embedded. Olivia didn't just lift that veil, she tore it, revealing the gears within. She forced a nation to face its avoided question. Who are laws written for? This wasn't just about Roth IRAs, one tycoon's greed, or too many loopholes. It was older, deeper, riskier. The idea that success means dodging duty, that greatness is how little you return. Nathan Caldwell didn't create that belief. He voiced it. And when he did, Olivia rose, not just as a lawmaker, but as a voice for every family, grandmother, child who paid more for honesty than others did for wealth. Her fight wasn't for fame, it was for accountability. Yet the human lesson isn't just exposing corruption. It's what follows. A nation's true test isn't uncovering injustice, but daring to shift because of it. Olivia didn't bask in cheers. She sat alone, drafting laws while the nation judged her worth. That's the cost of truth against power. Applause fades. Solitude lingers. She fought, unsure if the system would bend or break, but certain it couldn't be ignored. That's courage, not uncertainty, but conviction. This story shows accountability isn't revenge, it's dignity. It's believing no one, however mighty, can carve a private empire in a public nation. Justice isn't gifted like alms. It's clawed, scraped, bled for by those never meant to hold the mic. Olivia didn't win by shouting. She won by refusing silence, her facts outweighing their fear. She reminded us, truth has power if someone carries it uphill. But most human of all, she didn't mirror what she fought. In a world where exposure is spectacle, viral moments cashed in, pain politicized, Olivia refused the spotlight. No book deal, no speaking tour, no branded cause. She wrote policy. Quietly, exactly. Real change doesn't yell. It writes, drafts, revises, moves, often off camera. That's why this story stands apart. It doesn't end with a flourish. It ends with a woman facing a blank page, daring to fill it with accountability. She proved justice isn't rage. It's rebuilding what rage exposed. What do we take away? We learned the deadliest lie we've accepted is that the system can't change. Unbending, unmoving, deaf. But Olivia Harper showed one voice, armed with proof, truth, and clarity, can rattle what seemed eternal. We learned patriotism isn't shielding power, but people from power that owes them nothing. We learned silence isn't neutral, it aids the liar's gain. We learned naming injustice isn't enough. You must track it, document it, pull it to light, make it answer. We learned for every Caldwell, thousands lurk. Quiet, shielded, unprobed, not innocent, but invisible by design. Above all, we learned courage in America isn't always flags or speeches. Sometimes it's a woman alone, after all have gone, staring at a nameplate, asking how many names never reached it, then writing the next law. But if Olivia's story is a mirror, standing before it isn't enough. Now we've seen it. What will we do? You don't need Congress to face power. No mic, camera, or millions of followers. You need what Olivia Harper gave. Refusal to stay quiet. Courage to demand systems serve their people, not just those rewriting them. Injustice doesn't begin with billionaires. It starts with a shrug, silence, a system looking away until power vanishes. If you're reading, watching, recalling this, you're no longer looking away. This story isn't done. It's just begun. The laws Olivia exposed still stand. Loopholes remain. The machine turning wealth invisible hums in boardrooms, lobbying firms, tax codes no worker has time to read. But the truth, it works only when we allow it, when we surrender our voice, when we see politics as theater and forget the stage was built with our money, our land, our work. The hearing's over, but the reckoning isn't. It's not theirs anymore. It's yours. If Olivia's stand stirred you, good. Cling to it. Don't scroll on. Don't let the next outrage bury this. Share the clip. Contact your representative. Demand they back the Tax Fairness Act. Demand laws cap tax-free wealth and audit where money hides, not in glove boxes, but trust funds. Sign petitions. Speak at town halls. Don't just cheer her. Stand with her. Every system favoring billionaires over grandmothers bets your attention fades before your anger. Prove them wrong. Be louder than they expect. Braver than they're ready for. Don't just voice truth to power. Make power listen. Look at your community. Who's audited for pennies while corporations evade billions? Who pays late fees on a $500 tax bill while others buy yachts with write-offs? These aren't numbers. They're policies. Choices made by people banking on your distraction. Don't gift them silence. Give them your voice's pressure. If you're tired, good. It means you're awake. Olivia was tired, outnumbered, underestimated. She showed up anyway. So must we. Democracy doesn't die in court. It dies when we neglect it. Here's your moment, not to feel, but to act. Back candidates closing loopholes, not guarding them. Flood phone lines when hearing's quiet. Support watchdogs. Teach kids justice is a habit, not a speech. If you wonder, what can I do? Recall Olivia. One chair, one mic, one voice, shifting a nation's conversation too scared to start. Now it's yours to carry, not for cameras, not for applause, but because truth without action is another lie. Act before the next law's written without you. Thank you for watching this far and joining our justice journey. Your support is everything. Like subscribe, turn on notifications to stay in the fight. Share your thoughts below. What moved you most? Together, we're unstoppable.